Nanibaa.
Yat e Nanibaa Beck, she Nanibaa Beck, Tatnis ani nishle, glizasana bashas chin, sedishkujni da shache do ishihi da chanele. I am the 2018 Ronald and Susan Dubin Native Artists Fellow. So first I'd like to acknowledge the ancestral tribal lands that we are on, as well as the White Sisters, whose living room, now the boardroom, we are currently in. Ayahat Nasin, or I am grateful to the School of Advanced Research staff for the work that you do, and to the Indian Arts Research Center staff for your beautiful assistance during my time here. To Ronald and Susan, Ayahat for the honor to be the Dubin Fellow. And spending 2 months in the Dubin studio has been inspiring and incredible. And staying on this page, I wanted to, again, let you know that these are my clans, so if there's any Dene people out there, I might be related to you, let me know. And more so, I love the way that the words are spelled. I am a visual learner of Dinepazad. So when I started learning, I couldn't hear how people were pronouncing their words. Just by hearing it, I had to see it. So by seeing the words, it's really helped me to pronounce my words better, especially for my family. Extending beyond my clans, I currently reside in Carrboro, North Carolina, where my husband works at UNC Chapel Hill. I like to say that my hometown is Phoenix, Arizona, and that Pinyon, Arizona is my Howan on the Navajo Reservation in Dinepekeya, and that is where I'm originally from. So I want to begin with my background to share insights to my family and as it pertains to the creating and making of my jewelry. Next. So here is a lot of photos of my father and I, and also me making it. My informal training began at 13. I don't remember how I found myself in my father's studio. Maybe it was innate for me to want to spend time with my father as a self-professed dad's girl. In any case, it began, and it was an amazing environment to be part of, as you can see. So I stayed. Over the years, he taught me the fundamentals of silversmithing, and he gave me repetitive and tedious tasks of buffing and making findings for his pieces. I later found out that he purposely taught me the hard way to make jewelry. Yet the tasks built my patience and created a peaceful place to work while reflecting on life at the moment. And it wasn't just the two of us in the studio. My mother, Eleanor, was his partner in every sense of the word. Excuse me. She sent out his mailings, and just a little backstory, she passed away 2 years ago. So it's still sensitive. But she sent out his mailings and emails and fed us when we forgot to take a breaks. She taught me how to make silver beads and how to create my father's pieces when he couldn't step away from his work. So with both parents making jewelry, I found myself drawn to the studio in the weeks leading up to a show, working late in the night with them or either by myself. As a young adult, my knowledge of how to best assist my family grew, as did my knowledge of the unique upbringing we had. The annual shows for Native art took us around the country, and scenes like these photos were normal. Conversations with anthropologists and gallery owners, it was a sight to see my parents and the extended family members interact with everyone. I am thankful to my college education, however, in anthropology, American Indian Studies, and art history for contextualizing my experience. My major and minors informed me of the complex history related to what now is the native art market. My observations included colonization, assimilation, trains and traders, informal economy, and so on. And this is a lot, and it was a lot to unpack at the time in my early 20s. Thankfully, I feel my education and knowledge of these items has helped to inform my style of work. So I'll keep it short and provide more information about identity, modern versus traditional, and marketing. Identity. Next. My experience with identity began when I started high school. Nothing terrible happened, but it was interesting. I wasn't prepared to know how to answer questions about my lived experience as Native, much less Diné. Res Kid, Urban, Apple, Pocahontas, what kind of Navajo are you? Previous slide, please. All of those comments were a lot to take in, but right now I know that I am Diné, and if people are more curious, I can share my clans with them. I absorbed Native art history articles in college regarding Native identity, though. Artists like James Luna and John Wichtesley Smith, their work provided a visual reminder of colonial policy. The photography of Shelley Nero and Halea Sinajini redefined self-portraits into think pieces for me. They were defining themselves in the way they wanted to within their own environments. So the image you see was taken by past Anne Ray intern and my recent summer roommate, Teresa Montoya. And it reminds me of an actual self-portrait of an artist whose name I couldn't find. But the title of the portrait was called I Am Native Art. So it was these visual artists and the articles I read in college that were foundational to why I approached my work as Diné and traditional. Next slide. These art terms are helpful to bridge a gap between Native art and mainstream, but it restricts it to a linear timeline. The source of our tradition continues, and it's not defined within a time frame. It moves with every generation, so the use of the word traditional is to refer to vibrant, adaptive, and continuous. Sadly, for jewelry, even natives relegate the term traditional to the time period of the late 1800s to the mid-1900s. Actually, the distinctive silverwork started in the late 1880s, but the use of plants for fibers and natural stones have been used since time immemorial. I don't think we can link this up to YouTube. If it's possible, I just want to give a heads up that this video speaks to the vibrancy of Navajo jewelry over the past 100 years. For me, it shows the continuity of Navajo jewelry as showing it as something that's long established, which by definition is what traditional means. But the importance of it was really to give context. In the research I did for this video, I found out that the reason that we tend to think about traditional jewelry is because it's within a time of assimilation and relocation. And I feel like when you think about those two terms, you feel like that is the very essence of how people were transitioning. Unfortunately, what the video does show, and I can have a link and send it to Alicia to put into the page for this event, but it does show that when you think about Navajo jewelry, the context and the events happening during that time in history are what makes it change. So again, the adaptation, also the continuity of turquoise, which is connected to our ceremonies. That was the importance I wanted to show in that video. So marketing. During my first month here, I read a lot. I read a lot of Henrietta Leachy's book about marketing and selling Native art in the American Southwest. The book was published by the British Museum only a few years ago. But marketing Native American jewelry fascinates me so much that I have a hashtag on Instagram. It's hashtag Navajos Marketing Navajo Jewelry. I've observed for almost a decade or so the different types of marketing by artists of different generations. Fashion shows began happening during every art market in the 1990s. The Gasson family, a family of metalsmiths and past King Fellows, introduced their work to different audiences with these events. And social media also introduced me to other Native female artists who were utilizing the platform to sell their work. And this is how I met Kristen Dorsey, a Chickasaw metalsmith. And this is exactly how I was able to build my audience for my jewelry line called Not Above. Next. This is the original post from November 2016. This is all it took for me to begin selling my pieces online. I use the name Not Above because it's my favorite mispronunciation of my name. With a name like mine, you're given a lot of nicknames over the years, but Not Above seemed to best encapsulate the way I kind of allow myself to be out there. Never above you, never below you, but always beside you, is how my friends and I have described it. So the words that I have here are hojon and hya, which refer to, hojon is balance and harmony, hya is thank you, to feel grateful. Next. In 2014, I moved to Ithaca, and I had a very small studio in a very small space. I have to say it was about maybe 20 square feet. It's very small. And I had great light, and I had just what I needed to make pieces like this. So it was there when I was away from my family for the first time in a long time that I started broaching the idea of speaking with other metalsmiths. And that's kind of where I decided to start taking advantage of the resources I had. But that was 5 years ago, and it's taken that long to do that. 4 years ago. Next. In 2015, I got engaged, got married. It was around this time that I found out my mom was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS. So I moved back to Arizona, but in the meantime, I was playing with floating. I love hands. I love the way that these pieces accentuate the hands, but not overpowering the hands. And it's very modern. The piece in the middle is actually a old piece that I found in my dad's studio that is from the 1970s, and I made it into a piece of my own. So I still have that ring today. Next. In 2016, my work went into using joklo. Joklo means earring, and it's translated, it's just earring. Ja is your ear, so joklo is, your earring. But really, it's also known as a style of the necklace, which is those draping stones that we have. I wanted to make something that was clean and sleek, and I imagined my friends going to ceremonies or going to the flea markets, having these sway on their necks as they were doing different things. After my mom passed, she had taught me how to make her wave earrings. So that's where you see, just with my very dirty hands, wanting to capture again hands and also capture. It was maybe 2 o'clock in the morning, so you sometimes don't have time to take pictures of your pieces, even after you're finished making them. The last one is part of my organic Not Above collection. It's also where I started using the dualities of white shell and turquoise. We have our female white shell, we have our turquoise male side, and it's something that I feel when we are, as humans, we're made up of both male and female, and it's really great that we continue to discuss that. Next. And this is a piece that I'm really proud of. It was something that came together 6 months after my mom's passing, so it was completed in 2017. It consists of all the different stones of our four sacred mountains. And the pendant piece on the bottom represents mountains. The pearl is supposed to be the east white shell, but it's also in the east. So when you rise, you turn to the east and you say your prayers. And the mountain shape there is made up of the abalone for the west, and turquoise for the south, and jet for the north. And again, the pieces up on the backside are the dualities of male and female. So the woman that I'm happy whose collection this belongs to is another Dine Assan. She is getting her PhD, and she bought it because she was drawn to the large abalone. It turns out her mother had passed away, and that black abalone was her favorite stone. So I'm really glad that those types of scenarios bring people together and me together with them. Next. In 2017, I moved to North Carolina, and this is kind of where I decided to incorporate more of my mom's influences and inspirations. The silver bead necklaces are part of my Shima collection. As such, the language collection with the silver beads and Nanibaa, here it says 하인신내, which means perseverance and resilience, and that was her favorite word, especially with what she had to go through. The jaklo, I love asymmetrical. I find that there's a lot of balance for me in asymmetry. Next. So I applied for a lot of fellowships. And there's actually, it's a movie, so you can just make that play. It's a short video just of what I was passing by here in Santa Fe. A lot of the fellowships I applied for has brought me to this place. I applied for the First Peoples Fund, Creative Leadership Fellow, and I went to the Penland School of Crafts with that fund, and then I was able to find my way here. So with that growth and also the different education the techniques I'm learning, becoming a better silversmith, a metalsmith, not just with jewelry, but with larger, smaller sculptural pieces. I wanted to play with blooms, because I feel like I am a late bloomer. People have an idea of exactly what they're wanting to do when they're in their 20s and their teens, but everything came together in my 30s, and I think it's important to remind other people that that does happen. So next is a pair of earrings that are the start of my collection. Again, using the rail beads, something that my mom and I used to make together, adding the squash blossom parts on the bottom. Definitely, all of these skills were something that I built over the years. Again, with the hoop earrings, the next slide shows just a continuation of the waves, and also just where the inspiration does come from. Where there's so many photos that we have of women wearing the earrings, and I wanted to reemphasize that when it comes to jewelry, men wear it too. So when people come up to my booth, I tell them, and they ask about any men's earrings. I show them all of my earrings. Jaklo, hoop earrings, that can be worn by men too. So, next. And this is part of my the stuff that I was doing here at the IRAC. This is a pair of earrings that were owned by one of the White sisters, and I picked it up. It was heavy. It was really heavy. I didn't have a scale, but I can tell it was hurting my earlobes. So what I wanted to do was create a version of that, but obviously giving credit to the style, the very long spiculums that are also something that I use for bolo tips and other pendants that I create. But on the bottom of these pieces are the different versions of squash blossoms that I've made from earlier this year at my time at Penland School of Crafts. So the middle squash blossom has it's a brass alloy called Dix Gold, and that's where I started learning how to do chasing repoussé. I don't have any chasing repoussé done this summer, but with the funds that I received from the Dubin Fellowship, I'll be able to create my own chasing station once I get home to North Carolina. Next. So here is the project that really has led me into just being here at SAR. This is one of those important places that in order to get the work done that you've always wanted to do, it gives you time and place and peace to expand upon your own research. And my research was a lot of reading in the beginning. I had the availability of all the libraries or books in the library here on campus, but then I had to stop myself because there was nothing in those books that provided me with information about what I wanted to know about. And that was, how did they balance work life and being a mother? How much do they spend on their materials? What's your marketing like? When you're selling, what type of sexism have you experienced that kind of allows you to persevere and be consistent in the way that you allow yourself to be a woman, a Native person, and also a metalsmith? And I chose the word metalsmith because there are many jewelers. There are many techniques within jewelry. And I would compare my hands with other metalsmiths and see all the marks, the bruises, the cuts, the burns at shows. So if you ever want to check out a metalsmith's hands, it's very interesting seeing all the scratches and bumps on their hands at showtime. Next. So the first person I interviewed was Kristen Dorsey. I didn't get to see her. This is actually a picture from Instagram. She was pregnant. She has since had her baby. She shared with me, and I love that she's always been candid in how she is vocal about marketing. She shared with me how much money she makes for different shows, because why wouldn't you want to share that with people who are in the same business as you, to give them a heads up of what to prepare for? And she did that for me. She works in copper, or she'll use rose gold in place of copper. Mostly she would prefer for certain pieces, custom pieces, to get native copper from the Great Lakes region. And like me, she says that her academic background heavily influenced her work. And so we really bonded early on when she said that native jewelry is always seen through a Southwestern lens. And it's true. So for this project, I really wanted to also give focus to those who are outside the Southwest. Connie's Pickeries in Navajo, Tanya Jim-Raphael is Navajo, but Carrie is Kiowa, and Robin is Chippewa, and Kristen is Chickasaw. So it really gives a good glimpse of all their work that they do. But I don't have any work of their pieces. I have work of their hands, which I love. Staying on this page, she goes further saying that she doesn't use turquoise because it's not her region, it's not her culture, and with her contemporary pieces, she wants to teach Southwestern or Southeastern jewelry, and that by using turquoise, it would confuse people. And with native jewelry being very diverse, and not using turquoise and silver is hard because most people understand what that is as native jewelry, even though it sells well due to the large market created around it. Her mission doesn't align with it. So, and this is the reason why when she is at shows, most of the comments that she gets are either she doesn't look native because she does have light skin, and that her pieces aren't native, but she's Chickasaw, and she's using them and tying them in with her tribe so well. So it's really interesting how the intention behind some of these artists are obviously not so hard for people to see when they first meet her at a booth. And going further, one of the things that she did mention in regards to marketing jewelry, this is what she says, to quote, "Day to day figuring out what to work on that is the most productive, and being self-motivated and working hard every single day as a small business owner. It weighs on you because you don't have anyone to tell you need to know what you need to know to be successful. I wish I had more mentors and advisors starting out, but I didn't. I had to do research on my own and make decisions on my own, updating the website, posting social media, making email newsletters, making each email compelling. It's constant, and so getting exposure and press is hard. I don't think I do enough networking or attending events because I'm tired from all the other work. Driving to downtown Los Angeles, which is where she lives, to network takes a lot of energy. But she's prioritized her personal life, saying that spending time with her family and her spouse and investing in her relationships with her friends, and having children. She said that you have to decide what lifestyle you want. And there were so many things that she described in her conversation that I just don't have time to give you all the information. So next. And this is her marketing. Again, like I said, many other people who do market their pieces on social media have their own different ways of doing it, but I really appreciate the way that she has given me as a good example of how to do things beautifully. So she's very good at doing her marketing. Next. This photo of Robin Waney is great. This is a very natural pose for her, but you see that mark on her finger? That is a silver tattoo because of all the times that she's nicked her finger and it has opened up. So over time, when you keep on doing it too much, things like that happen to your hands. And Sometimes you can put on finger coverings, or you can wrap up your finger, but that takes time away. And it's really nice just to actually be able to feel your pieces when you're working. But she has always been active with her hands. She's chosen to be outside, or she's chosen to create anything, only also to avoid doing household chores. Her father was also a maker, and he must have instilled a lot of his making abilities and ethic into her, because she would always be by his side and learning whatever it is he had to share with her. He was also part of the Santa Fe Indian Market before she became part of an Indian Market, and I didn't know this, and had several similar issues of not being Native enough, and he's Chippewa as well. They said that his work was too Western, and similar to Robin's work being seen as too contemporary. But her partnership with her husband, Ryan Robert, introduced her to a gorgeous, complex jewelry making techniques, and his patience, and also a job that he had available for her, his gallery on Canyon Road, was also really helpful for them to start building up that partnership. And so she was incredible to talk to, very open and very endearing. She shared that she has anxiety while selling, just like all of us do, giving presentations, very anxious-ridden. She said that she sold her first piece for $200, and her heart was racing. And I had the same experience when I posted my first Instagram post, and I had no idea what would take place from that point on. And with her family, she's very aware of wanting to be the best mother that she can be. When she did have babies, when she was pregnant, she put aside 3 years to focus on raising those boys. And when they were ready, when they were able to be taken care of or take care of themselves, she opened up her shop life again. And during this whole interview, her husband, Ryan, was in the studio, and every question I had, you can hear Ryan, giving his background, his own little twist of information, and it was great seeing that type of partnership with jewelers. Next is Constance Sosi Gasson. I've known her since I was a kid. She's my Santa Fe mom. And so I've known her, but I've never really talked to her about her experience of being a metalsmith. And now that I am a metalsmith, I was very much wanting to know information about how she had to deal with sexism. She said it was very hard, that the men who saw her pieces would ask her if her husband made them, or they wouldn't believe that she was capable of moving metal or creating metal pieces like that. And so in the early IA days, she was able to take a class with, what's his name? His name is Skip something. But she became a lab monitor. She showed him that she was able to do these things. Over time, and also with the incredible support of her husband, Jerry Gasson, he had her set up in their kitchen when they were living in a trailer. This is very early on. Their trailer had a kitchen table, of course, and so she'd set up her stuff there. But all of her equipment, her buffing equipment, was underneath the trailer. So she would also tell me that there was a time where her hair got caught because it was cold outside and she had babies and her hair got caught in the buffing wheels. And so she emphasizes the importance of safety. But she was also very open when I was asking her about how she raised her boys. From very early on, she said that she always wanted to be a metalsmith. Seeing the collections of different artists and museums, she wanted to be part of that. And that really motivated her to become just the renowned artist that she is today. And so she attributes that maker mentality and wanting to have that work balance to how her boys are such good cooks. She would have the studio door open and she would yell the different steps of how to make spaghetti, how to, coming back and forth, this is what you gotta do, put this much water in and so on. So she's great, but these hammers and mallets that she has are some of her long and loved pieces of equipment and tools. So again, I really feel it's important to see the way that we become so attached to the pieces that make us the metalsmiths we are. And this is a small video of her.
Go out and stare at a tree. You know, just get your mind clear of all kinds of stuff that's going on in there that keep you in this rut.
And this was actually from a time where I really was in a rut. Being here at SAR is incredible, but you know, sometimes you get imposter syndromes. Sometimes you question everything that you're doing, and you're like, oh, what is happening? So when I went to see her, I think just everything aligned to where she, again, stepped up as that Santa Fe mom, and she was just giving me this great information on what to do, be reminded of what to do. So after this video, my brother and I went to Tent Rocks, and that was pretty incredible. The next person I visited was Tanya June Raphael. She began learning silversmithing at a young age. Her grandfather had a lot of pieces of equipment that she became very accustomed to using as a young person. Also, she was in the front office of one of the Albuquerque companies that would produce mass amounts of native jewelry. And so what she did was she would buy the stones from different vendors around Albuquerque and then place them on pieces of tape and then create a style that would then be passed on and then mass-produced by jewelers in the back. So she is such an incredible woman to kind of pay attention to she paid attention to the treatment that she was receiving as a female. She was being paid so little for what she was doing then. She would leave and then she'd come back saying that they would increase her pay by $1. But as you all know, the market here in Albuquerque and with the companies that used to do that, they made so much more money off of it. So eventually she decided to start making her own jewelry. And the pieces that you see here are it's actually a purse. She talked to me about, she was making this purse at the same time. She was telling me how often she has to travel all over the country. She works in her vacations to Hawaii by doing a show in Hawaii. She is on the road at least twice or 3 times a month. This month alone, she's doing the Gallup Ceremonial, which is taking place this weekend, I think. And then also she's doing We Are the Seeds and then Swaya next week. She became very instrumental for me when I'm having those moments of like, am I not doing enough work? But she goes into this incredible beast mode of working that she works best at night. And like me, it was great to hear that because sometimes people who work 9 to 5 don't really recognize the type of environment that happens in the middle of the night, especially for, night people like us. And this next video is of her. And it was small videos like this that fascinates me the most. You can see the stump in the back that belonged to her grandfather. She has a map on the back of her wall to show everybody where they're coming from, and when they visit her at her house, they have a better idea of like how far she travels. Above that map are images of Frida Kahlo, a lot of dear colleagues and clients that she has had over the years. And here, again, she was just making her purse, and she said that she would have that finished by that night. She's incredible. I can't even with that woman. The next person I was able to interview, Carrie Atumbi, she was the most insightful person in terms of how to navigate Santa Fe and how to navigate learning from different artists. And, she is just a generation older than, or 10 years older than me, so, we have different generations, but she has been in this business long enough for me to remember going to her booth when I was 18, 19 years old. And even then, I had a fangirl crush on her. She'd been very aware of how important education is and continuing education. She studied in Bali, and she continues to take courses around the country of metalsmithing courses around the country. So she usually sets that time aside during the months after the Heard Museum show in March. And so right here, I caught her. I had followed her around the whole studio while she was photographing everything. She hates photographing stuff. She took photography skills back in college, and it's been instrumental with the way that she markets, along with her person that helps her marketing is my friend Kate Crawley. The two of them together have really transformed the way that I see Navajo metalsmiths marketing their pieces. She is always ahead of, she has a better way of providing insight to the way jewelry is made. She is also very real when it comes to materials. She spends so much money and told me that you need to pay off all your bills after Indian market, because then at that point you can set things aside and buy the goals that you want to, buy the things that you have goals to buy, which is your bench. Or one time it was like a laser welding machine. So she provides a lot of tips and tricks of how to be very up to date with your business. Inventory, she has such a good system. And even though my friend's been working with her for the past 5 years, she says it's taken about 5 years. I've been in this business for 5 years. So it's been great to see how each person just makes and works their business. The next one is a picture of all of us. I am always learning about new tools. What this picture shows is the wonderful abilities of steam cleaners. And I had gotten my wedding ring steam cleaned, and I had no idea these things existed until my father told me that he had a steam cleaner in his storage closet, and he just doesn't use it. My dad's very old school and very much in fabrication is the only thing that he does, along with lapidary. So in talking with each of these metalsmiths, Carrie does so many different things. Robin, along with Robert, does many great things. Tanya, I understand her, but her work ethic is on another level. And Kristen is more my soulmate when it comes to how I best connect with another metalsmith in this business. So the last image are just some of the images of me and the different people that I interviewed. I was a tad intimidated to take a picture with Robin Waney, although she would have been completely fine with it. But hands are a huge thing when it comes to working with jewelry. It's incredible what we can make with our hands. And so during this time at SAR, being able to learn, to research, to read everything, I'm just going to cry. There are things that you have to learn, that will help you in being a better person and generate what you need to be a better human being. So that's a lot of what my parents instilled. So that's it.